Hello, welcome to this tutorial of Mitchmatics. In this tutorial, I will be showing you how to find the range of either a data set or a dot plot. So, what is range? So range is just telling us how wide or how spread our data is. So essentially, what range is just taking the greatest value and subtracting the least value or the lowest value from the greatest value. And that just tells you again how wide is my data spread or how close together it is. So let's find let's find a range for these two data sets and then two dot plots. So whenever you're finding a range, you just have to identify the greatest value and the lowest value. And to make it really easy for yourself is you always want to list your data from least to greatest. So if you notice here, it's counting up from left to right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9. So this is already listed in ascending order or from least to greatest. So let's find our range. I'm going to identify my greatest value first. My greatest value. So my greatest value is 9. So I see that the largest value is 9. Now I'm going to identify my least value. So that means the lowest value. So I see that 3 is my very lowest value. So 3 will be my lowest. So all my range is now, I'm going to take the largest value and subtract the lowest value. So that is basically meaning that range is greatest value with the least value taken away from it or subtracted from it. Again, range is just the greatest value with the least value taken from it or subtracted from it. So now I'm just going to rewrite it and say that my range is just 9 minus 3. And that's 6. So my range of this data is 6. So again, all that is saying is how close is my data spread or how wide is my data. It's basically, you can think of it as the width. What's the width of my data? It's kind of how you can think of it. So this would be like close together, or is it far apart? So let's do it on this one. So again, you have to make sure your data is listed from least to greatest so you can easily identify the lowest value and the highest value. So I'm going to rewrite this. 1 is my first number. I see a 2. I see a 5. I see a 6. And I see an 8. So I'm just rewriting it from least to greatest, again from left to right. Now I see my values. I see 1 is my lowest and 8 is my highest. So instead of writing this all out, I'm just doing the same thing. So my range would be 8, again the highest, subtracting the lowest value, 8 minus 1, which will be 7. So that will be my range for this one. So if I was to compare these two data sets, this is a data set that's much wider than, or a little bit wider, because it's 7 versus 6. This is a little bit wider than this data set. And that's what range is for when you have a data set. Now, if I have a dot plot, it's just a little bit different. I'm just looking for, again, my lowest and greatest value. I don't need to list my data out. You can do that if that's easier, but I'm just going to show you how to quickly identify your least and greatest value on a dot plot. So I'm going to do this in red. So I just want to explain, your range is not your peak. It is not your peak. And you're not counting the numbers. You're not counting the numbers of the number of dots. So I am just looking where my dots begin and where my dots end. So if I look from left to right, I see that my dots start at 0. And then if I keep going to the right, I see that my last dot's at 4. So my range will be, again, the greatest value with the least value taken away from it, least value. So that means 4 minus 0 is equal to 4. And that is my range. This dot plot has a range of 4. And again, that's just showing you how much it's spread. It's basically the difference between these two values right here. It's showing how spread apart these two, your data is. Let's do one more. Let's look at this dot plot. So this one shows the number of hours slept. So I'm going to again look for where my dot starts and where my dot ends. Again, it is not the peak. It's not where you see all the dots. You're not counting the dots. You're just looking to where they start on the number line. So I see that 5, the first dot starts. Now if I go all the way over to 12, I see that there's my last dot. So these are my least and my greatest values. So I'm going to find my range again. My range, in this case, would just be 12 minus 5, which would be 7. So this dot plot has a range of 7. So again, that's just showing us how spread across it is, or how spread apart. So if I was to compare these two dot plots, this dot plot has a much bigger range, or the data is spread much further than this dot plot because it has a range of 4. So this data is closer together on the left, while the data over here is much more spread apart. So unless you know how the number line is, the number line is numbered, it's hard to tell just by looking at it how spread apart your data is. So you always want to calculate your range to determine that. So I hope this helped you out. So best of luck.